Hey, what is happening, everybody? So in this video, we're going to be walking through a webinar setup. This one may be a little bit longer, so feel free to kind of pause, go back. It may be a little bit more on the technical side of things, and there's a couple topics that are interwoven, so I wanted to make it in a more of a continuous stream of thought, just so you had a clear idea of how everything ties together and works together. So we're going to be touching on two things here primarily, and that's going to consist of the custom values and actual funnel step itself. So feel free to follow along. We have some step-by-step stuff here if you're more of a written person, and then you can combine that obviously with the video, and we'll include the transcripts and some additional SOPs on this. So again, just kind of give you an idea of what we're working with. We're going to be working with custom values and then the webinar funnel pages. So I'm just going to jump right in and kind of go through things. If you're following along on the written, feel free to go through this as kind of like a checklist backstop. So this will be included in the notes below. So jumping right in, just for some frame of reference, to kind of give you an idea where we're at. We're in sites and then funnels. Let me go back here just so we have, you can follow along with the bouncing ball. So we have sites, funnels, and then we're going to be in the Homebuyer registration funnel. So from this one, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. The first thing that we want to do, kind of make sure that we are ready to set the stage to do the custom values, is actually come over to the settings section here and make sure that we have a domain added to the funnel. Now this will map the rest of the funnel pages, so we can get the links to map everything over to the custom values, which will make sense here in a moment if you're not familiar with that stuff. Now if you're a user of Agent Flywheel, we'll typically add a default domain to your account that you're welcome to use, but you are welcome to use your own custom domain yourself. You can add it on. If you haven't done that, you can follow along with the videos to add and edit your custom domains. But you just pop in here, just make sure if there's nothing there, double check to see. If you're a user and you don't see this in there, let us know and we'll get it added in. Or if you want help adding in your own, you can, or you can follow along with that. So once we have our domain plugged in, I'm going to go back over to the steps, and then I'm just going to walk through here really quickly. So we have an opt-in step, a thank you step, a Zoom link and event countdown, and then a appointment booking step here. So a couple things to kind of just reference on each one of these steps. There's going to be a link. These links are going to be, we're going to be using these as custom values, and this will make sense here in a second as we pop over to the custom value step. So we have opt-in, thank-in, Zoom, and appointment. So I'm going to pop over to the custom value section now. And again, to give you a frame of reference, we are in the settings section. So this is going to be, let me just back out here just so you have a clear idea of where we're going. So we're going to come all the way down to the settings, and then we're going to be in the custom values right here. So we got custom values, and then we're going to go over to folders. So settings, custom value folder. Again, if you're following along with the bouncing ball, you can go into on this here. It'll help get you where we need to be. Okay, so we're in custom values, folders, webinar. We're going to go ahead and click on this. You can see that there's 9 custom values here that we're going to want to plug in. And there's a couple things here. I'll circle back to the policy in terms of service, but if you have one of these from typically this is going to come from your business, your parent companies that you can use if you have some sort of specific privacy policy. It's not mission critical. We do have some of these that you can add on internally that we set up for you during the setup process, but easy way to grab and edit these privacy policy and terms and conditions. Grab it from your company, come in, edit. You're just going to paste them in here and save that. A lot of times the privacy policy and the terms and conditions are going to be exactly the same. I wouldn't, don't need to worry, get too worried about that, but put something in there and that'll work for you. Let us know if you need some help with that. Now moving on to more of the funnel stuff here, we have our opt-in, our Zoom funnel, and Zoom link And again, so I'll just kind of follow top of the bottom. So top of the thing here, webinar opt-in funnel. Just kind of reference again, we got opt-in. So what I would do is going to grab this link here, copy that, and then I'm going to pop in to this webinar opt-in funnel, and I'm going to edit this, edit custom value, paste that in there, and then just go ahead and hit update and save. And I'm not going to do that for the sake of this, just so it's clean for us. And then moving on down, we have the webinar Zoom funnel. You're going to get the Zoom there. So come down here, again, just kind of repeat this process. We're copying these links, pasting them into the custom values. The Zoom link, if you don't have Zoom set up, you're going to want to get your Zoom. You can reference the previous video of connecting a Zoom to get your Zoom number. You may have already done that if you followed along with that earlier, but there is a connecting your Zoom previous video where you could do that. But this is just your Zoom link, a specific Zoom link. I like to use just a hard one there. Then moving along here, webinar date and time. Now, there's some variability to here in regards to, if you want to have like a changing date. What I typically recommend for a lot of folks when it comes time to doing, like if you're doing like a webinar, like pick a date and a time that is going to be consistent and predictable for you to be able to do it. So like Wednesday, at 7 p.m. So if you're Central Time, but if you can do that, if you can have a single specific day and time and do it every single week, that's recommended versus picking a specific date out into the future. Now you absolutely can do a specific date out in the future, and you would just put, type, it would be like July 4th, 7 p.m. You can type all that out in there. And so if you're not familiar with custom values too, and I probably should have touched on this earlier, these are things that are going to show up in your funnel and in your funnel steps in specific places. So for example, just, continuing along with the bouncing ball here on the custom values. So we're going to delete that here so we don't have that. The webinar host. So anywhere you want, for example, you're going to put your name in there, your webinar state. Hopefully these should all be, fairly self-explanatory for that stuff. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. But to just clarify, or give you a better idea of what we're talking about, the custom values, when you pull this up, these custom values will populate. So anything you put into those custom values will then show up in the actual funnel pages themselves, where you don't have to constantly be changing it. So you could see here, custom values, webinar state, custom values, webinar date and time. So again, this is an example of it being like Wednesday at 7 p.m. So if you're doing it now, obviously if you're doing it July 4th at 7 p.m. or just whatever date you're picking, there's that. And then you go through, it's the webinar host again, and so you have all of this stuff. The privacy policy and terms and conditions, will typically have something set in there just as kind of like a default, but obviously you can update that to your own personal stuff. This is a streamlined page here. You can have the option of customizing it to your heart's content, and we can go over that in a separate video, but hopefully that's helpful in explaining. So you have your custom your funnel pages. So opt-in, your thank you page, this is where they go to after they register. This is a separate appointment booking page where you send people to register to a one-on-one call after your Zoom. So this is like your call to action. So it's like schedule an appointment here to talk one-on-one. This is the link that you send out to people so they can join and get plugged in during the webinar, and it can track everybody that shows up. and send you notifications for all that good stuff. So there you have it, guys. You have the Zoom link, the appointment reminder, the thank you, the opt-in. We went through on this, just if you're following along, we went through the custom values, the funnel step, some editing of text, but there's, this is going to get into more of like if you want to customize it. The Zoom link, the countdown timer. I wouldn't get too worried about countdown timers. You can add them, but people aren't too, they're not as important, I don't believe, as they used to be to create a sense of urgency as in the past. But definitely an option on that. Next, we're going to get into workflow, so I'll just jump in and walk through that. But hopefully this is helpful in walking you through. If you need help on this stuff, we do have a more of like a done for you option where we'll help plug everything in. But if you follow along, it's not too hard. It might be a little bit outside of some people's comfort zone, but we wanted to make this as easy as possible so anybody could come in, get it plugged in, and rocking and rolling. And so you can go back, rewind, watch it, a couple times if you need, but hopefully it's pretty easy to follow along with.